Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Perform Happy podcast. We have a special guest today, Olympian Barbara Berezowski. She was a two-time Canadian figure skating champion, and she competed at the 1976 Winter Olympics. She was a five-time member of the Canadian World Team and a World Professional Ice Dance champion. And currently, she is known as the Champion Mindset Mentor, who is inspiring others to live a champion life with positivity, joy, and clarity of purpose. Oh my gosh, which is everything I love about people, but the fact that you've also, climbed the mountain to Olympic status and reached amazing goals. I'm so grateful to have you here today, Barbara.
Well, thank you. I'm so honored that you invited me.
Yes, of course.
It's a pleasure meeting you.
Likewise. So would you tell us a little bit about kind of what that means? What do you do today using your champion mindset that you cultivated as an ice dancer?
Well, what I do today is inspire and empower women of all ages. Right now, though, I'm focusing on a mid 50 range of women because I'm finding that we are all so hard on ourselves, and we're thinking that at the age of 50, life is over. Now, I didn't do what I wanted to do, and I really want to empower women to know that, hey, life is just beginning. You have a lot more living to do. And I think they just need encouragement and someone to tell them, yeah, you can do it. It's not silly. It's very important to give back to whatever you can give back in life.
Wonderful. And just before we went on and started recording, I was mentioning, this concept of being too old. Like, that ship has sailed. It's too late. I'm too old to do that. And it's interesting, hearing that of course you hear that a lot in the women that you help empower. But I think it's amazing how much I hear that working with 12, 13, 14-year-olds. I mean, all day it's that idea of, I'm too old, it's too late, I can't have my dream.
Yeah, that's absolutely the case. And it's the same thing in I think, all sorts of sports. I know in figure skating, that's also very prevalent. And I can't believe how hard young girls can be. They have this image in their head of what they're supposed to be instead of trying to blossom and shine and give of themselves what they truly are. If they would just flip the coin a bit and think about their assets instead of what they think is wrong with them, then they can make it a lot easier for themselves.
Oh, isn't that true? And sports like figure skating and gymnastics are very perfection oriented. We don't aim for a 9.9 in gymnastics. We aim for a 10. You don't go out to skate an okay program. You want to skate a clean program. You want to hit your jumps. You want to hit your program. Mm-hmm. So how did that affect you? Did you ever come up against that perfectionism bug when you were competing?
I have to say yes, but we also learned that you always strive to be perfect. It's part of having a mindset of a champion. But along with that, there is some realism that you have to remember that no one is perfect, and it's better to go out there and do your personal best. Somebody's idea of perfection can be very different than the person sitting beside them. So you would never be able to please everyone. But if you stay within yourself, know what your power is, and strive to do the best you can at all times, then you have to be satisfied with what you're doing.
Yes.
Hopefully the judges will give you the marks to reward that. But at the end of the day, even if they don't, that's okay. You've given your best. You know it was your best shot, and you can live with that.
Yes. And that, I wish I could just bottle that and be like, here you go. Just you focus on you be present, you do one skill at a time, and it's going to be wonderful. And if it's not perfect, you learn, and then off you go and you try again. And it seems so simple, but some people have a really hard time switching off that kind of inherent habitual negativity. Do you have any tips for somebody? And this could be moms. I mean, I know a lot of moms are like, they're trying to be positive. They're trying to get their kid to be positive, but then they're like, oh, this competition is always a disaster. And oh, we're running late again. And oh my gosh, your coach. And so the moms tend to do it as much as the kids. Do you have any tips for either of them on how to stop that bad habit?
Well, I think the most important tip for the athlete and for the parent and for the coach is to live in a world of positivity. Nothing can be gained by somebody being negative and tearing something apart. And even if they're not consciously trying to do that, if they're not very careful with their words, it can be taken in a whole different light. So being positive about everything. Okay, you didn't do what you were supposed to do, but you did it the best you can today. That is much better than saying, what was that? You know, you need positive reinforcement at all times. And I was lucky enough in my career to have that. I had wonderful coaches. I wish I had experts like you to guide me, because I think what you're doing is fabulous for these athletes. But we learned just through talking with other athletes, other coaches, sharing information. And then it was really developing your own mind to make sure that you were on a straight and narrow and you were not going to be taken off that road until you reached your goal.
Now, did you always know you were going to be an Olympian? Was that always something you set your sights on?
No. I mean, I was lucky. I was an ice dancer. And for those that aren't really familiar with figure skating, ice dancing was never an Olympic event. So I remember, and it was always every 4 years for any Olympics, and they were held in the same time. Summer had summer games, winter had winter games, and it was within the same year. Then everyone had to wait 4 years for the next one to come along. So that was different. But I remember on the world team, we had just finished competing in the national championships. And we took the world team picture, and we were all excited. And this was my first or second year on the world team. And then they said, okay, can everyone come over here except the ice dancers, because we're going to take the Olympic team picture now. My heart was broken. But that was the way it was. It wasn't an event. And then 4 years later, it was 1976, and we were the Canadian champions at that time. And it was the first time ever that they were going to have ice dancing in the Olympics. So we were the very first Canadian ice dance champions to compete at the Winter Olympic Games. So no, I didn't have that in my mind. What was in my mind was to become a champion of the country, so Canadian champion. So I achieved that. And to be on the world team, and I achieved that. And funny enough, ever since I was 8 years old and my mom took me to see Ice Follies, which was a professional ice show, that's what my goal was on. I wanted to be a star in the ice show. And that's what drove me all those years. Wow. And getting to the Olympics was phenomenal, but it was icing on the cake for me.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And you were a professional ice dancer in the show. So you got that dream as well.
Yes. Yes. And it was the very same show. I was with Taller Cranston show for 2 years. And then I got a chance to skate with Ice Follies. And that Ice Follies was the same company that I had gone to when I was 8 years old to watch. So that was real.
Oh my gosh. What an experience to skate out and be a part of it, I bet.
Yeah, it was.
Wow. Okay, now I'm sure it wasn't just smooth sailing, that you set your goal and then you worked hard and then you got it. There must have been some setbacks along the way. Was there ever a moment where it got hard?
Oh, no. Yeah, right. There were very, very intense moments. There was heartbreak. There was trying something over and over again, and as every athlete knows, you have to fall 10 times before you can land something once, and then you think you've got it, and you go out and you fall another 10 times, and you think you've got it. So it's a constant up and down, waves coming in and out. It's a real way of teaching yourself to be patient and to have perseverance, because nothing comes easy. And yes, it was all glamorous to get to the top, but you're right, on the way to the top, there's a lot of work that goes into it, a lot of early mornings. And with skating, I'm not a winter person. I'm in a winter sport, but I'm not a winter person. And being out on the ice rink at 5 o'clock in the morning, freezing, was not my cup of tea. But I knew I had to do that. It was just a necessary thing that I had to do to get to where I was going to go. So I did it.
And were there any moments where you thought, maybe this isn't for me? Maybe I can't do it. Maybe I should give up?
Not once I became an ice dancer, no. I started skating at about 7 or 8 years old, and I was a single skater. And by the time I got to about 12, 13, which is the age group you're working with, I had a growth spurt. So I grew like 6.5 inches in one summer, and I thought, okay, that's it. I mean, I couldn't do anything. I was klutzy, I was clumsy, I was just all arms and legs. And I thought, no, I'll never reach my dream because I can't do anything right. But again, with constant reinforcement and perseverance, you just learn to get through that. And then when I started ice dancing, which is what my goal was, to be an ice dancer, it all fell into place, and I knew I was in the place where I was supposed to be, and I had found my home. And there were hardships along the way, but I was more settled, and I never doubted myself, and I never had that thought again that, no, this isn't for me. I knew right away that was for me. It was just getting over that hump at like 12 and 13 years old, just getting over that little mountain. And then once you can do that, you're okay, you're golden.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you're speaking a story that I've heard many, many times, that growth spurt where it was effortless for so many years, and you're just getting better. And all of a sudden, where are my jumps? Yeah. And where is my talent? I've lost my talent. I've peaked. I'm too old. I will never. It's like, it's amazing how the negativity springs up from a situation like that. Right. And you say, how did you put it? Just live in the realm of of positivity, or whatever you mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you take, for that 12-year-old who just had her growth spurt and she is struggling with her jumps, how does she find the realm of positivity when it just feels so far away?
A lot of it is patience. Like I said, patience and perseverance. It's really important not to be too hard on yourself. And that's easier said than done. But if this is where the parents and coaches come in. If you have that positive reinforcement at all times, no matter what the circumstance, you tend to start thinking that way about everything. And you start believing, yes, I will get through this. Yes, I will get through this. And eventually you do, but it does take time. And if you understand that and you give it the room that it needs, it will settle for you. But I know what you mean. So many times people give up because they think it's too hard. Well, you're in the sport because you have talent, and it's important to just stay focused and keep at it, because with anything, somebody has to work an awful lot and put in a lot of years of experience before they can get their designation. Let's say in school, before you get your degree, you've got to put in the time. And an athlete is no different. They have to understand that nothing comes easy. You will be paid tenfold when you do reach the other side. So it's just being patient and going for it and believing in yourself. Even if you go out and fall 10 times, believe that next time you try, you're going to land it. That's the only way to get through it.
Yes. Yes. I makes me think of a girl who her strategy was get up and pretend you nailed it. And just
Yes.
keep going. And that for her made a huge shift. Because
Yeah.
she would fall and she would be upset. And then she was like, you know what? I'm just going to pretend I made it. And it was so good. And then she started getting more resilient and her programs got better. And yeah, that fall happened, but the whole rest of the program didn't fall apart.
Exactly. Exactly. That is part of the positive mindset. There's so much good that you have. Just don't focus on that one bad thing that happened.
Yes.
And you just made me think of something we used to do if we did a silly trip on the ice or something. We'd strike a pose and say, I meant to do that.
Yes. Yeah. In gymnasts, they have these optional routines. So the judge never really knows what the routine is. So you fall and you know, like make it really beautiful or you wobble and you make it amazing. I had a girl I used to coach who she was like so good at that. We'd be like, honey, they knew it was a wobble, but man, was that pretty.
That's right. It's important.
Yes. So now I know you work with coming out of the darkness after loss, and so you lost someone very close to you,
Mm-hmm.
and how were you able to come to the other side of that with such positivity? I know that's something that can be very hard for people.
It's a very difficult situation. My husband passed away suddenly of a heart attack, very unexpectedly, and I had 2 young boys to raise on my own. That was the darkest time of my life, and I credit, first and foremost, I credit my children for getting me through it, because I guess this is where the athlete mindset came in. I focused on them. I thought, no, they have such a hardship losing their dad that I'm going to make it as easy as I can for them to transition into a life without a father. So that's what I did. And I guess because of the determination that you sort of cultivate as an athlete, that's what helped me through it. There were times where they were very low and I was very upset, but we were taught not to show those emotions in public, and that's what I did. However, it's good to let those emotions out, and I had a release. I had really, really good friends, and they would let me cry and scream and do whatever I had to get it out of me. Mm. But I think the most important thing is to know exactly what I'm preaching, to know that, yes, it's a very difficult time. I will never forget it, but we will get through this with strength and with patience and with perseverance. We will get through this. And the main thing that helped me through it was I focused on the positive. I focused on the happy times rather than the actual event of what happened, because there's so many happy memories in our lives, and to this day we still share stories about Dad, and my kids just love that because it just brings warm feelings to your heart. I mean, after a certain time it's much easier to do, but that's really how we did it. We stuck together as a family, we supported each other, and we always tried to be positive, which sounds really silly in a dark situation like that, but it really did work and it really did help.
Two really important things I think that athletes can take away from that. I know many elite athletes who go and have a cry in the shower at the end of a tough practice, because it's hard and it requires determination, and it's just sometimes just put one foot in front of the other and slog through it, because it's not one of those winning days that feels amazing. It's just one of those days that you cross off the calendar and you just turn the page and move on. But it is so important to have that outlet where you can feel, because otherwise you push it down and then it comes up in these weird ways, like lashing out at people, or even pain and injury I've seen happen when people are really bottling things up. Yeah. So, and did you learn that from sport too, to talk about what was going on, or was it more bottled up for you?
I have to say it was, I mean, you spend so many years of your life in your sport that it's hard not to look at life without having that come through you in some way. And reflecting back on it, yeah, it was the training I had in sport to help me through a situation like that. I understand what you're saying about not showing emotion and doing it in private. And I'm glad to hear you say other athletes do that, because I wasn't really sure if they did or not. We always have a game face. Mm-hmm. And I was really good at that. Like, I would never let them see me sweat, even though I was shaking in my boots. I was not going to let anybody see me sweat. And I don't know what it's like in gymnastics, but in figure skating, there's a whole different ballgame going on in the dressing room. Mm-hmm. You have that with gymnastics, where athletes and competitors with one another, like they're playing head games and trying to psych people out, because that happens.
Not as much. What I hear from skating is it is dramatic. It is so dramatic. All of the rink politics and the everybody's actually watching you and everybody's judging you and everybody's talking about you. It's like, how do you keep your blinders on in an environment like that?
Believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. And I think that's probably why my belief in myself became so strong, because I grew up in that environment. We'd be in the dressing room and you would have a Russian skater in full costume during a practice session, dancing around the dressing room right in front of your nose and like just trying to psych you out. And I made a game of it. I just smiled sweetly, but I knew that if you only knew how tough I was, you wouldn't be doing that. It never broke my shell. And that's an important thing to have in life too.
That's such a great example. There's basically a technique I teach where I have people take their biggest distraction and turn it into their focus reminder. So every time you see that, every time you see her, you remember, this is what I'm going to focus on. I'm going to focus on my shoulder. I'm going to focus on my takeoff. I'm going to focus on, and you see them and you can be grateful. You're like, oh, thank you for reminding me. Thank you. And you actually, and it sounds like you have a lot of gratitude for those tough times, because it taught you perseverance. It taught you that it's not over till it's over. And there's always a silver lining. And without that, you might not be the person that you are today.
Well, thank you for that. I think, yes, that does teach us a lot. And it also, I found myself in situations where I'm very hopeful about something coming up roses, and people are looking at me going, that plant is dead. I said, oh, no, I can see little shoots. But that's really like being positive and looking for something good in everything and everyone. There, even if it's a tiny little twinkle in somebody's eye, everybody's got it. It's just pulling it out of people. And people that can do that are recognized for being inspirational. And that to me is the biggest compliment, because I love doing that. It's natural.
Yes. I love that. Well, so I have this theory that many people who go into helping professions tend to have had their own struggles, like the wounded healer concept, that one who's been wounded wants to heal. For me, it was I had fear in gymnastics, so I want to help the fearful 13, 14, 15-year-olds get through it. So that made me curious, was there ever a time where the negativity became an issue to the point where you had to develop the muscle to get through it? Was there a negative streak or moment that brought this out of you, so to speak?
The only thing that comes to mind when you say that is the year we were defending our Canadian national title. Our event is done over a 3-day period. So there's a compulsory component, and then an original set pattern component, and then a final event. And in figure skating, as you may be aware, if you're a champion going into a national championship, it's almost in the cards you're going to win. Although, no, it's not. I mean, if you don't put it out there, you're not going to win. But anyway, we skated the first night, the first event. We did a really, really good job. And the marks came up, and we were dumbfounded. We were in second place. And everyone in the building just went silent. They didn't know what to say because we didn't understand. And I was devastated. I thought, what more can I do? And then the second day came along. We said, okay, we'll just keep on rocking it, do what we do best, and it'll all play out in the end. Well, the second day came, and exactly the same thing happened. We were in second place. And we couldn't believe what was happening. And to make matters worse, one of the judges I'm jumping forward here, sorry. Then on the third day, which is the final event, we went out there and I skated with a partner, obviously. So we just said to each other, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. We know we're the best, and we're going to show them we're the best. And it doesn't matter if they still want to have us in second place. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. We went out there, we skated the performance of our life. The place went crazy. We had a standing ovation. It was awesome. And I really didn't care what was going to happen with the marks. I really didn't. Well, lo and behold, we got all the high marks, and we ended up winning our title again for the second time. Now, what I was getting at in the beginning was what was devastating to me was at the final event at the banquet, one of the judges came up to us and said, well, there was never doubt in your mind that you weren't going to win, was there? But, excuse me? You put us through all that, and you think that there wasn't a doubt in our mind that we weren't going to win? And she said, well, the second place team were thinking about quitting skating, and we wanted to give them some encouragement to stay in the sport. So we thought the best way to do that is to lift their spirits by showing them that they can get very close to the top. So that was my lowest point, to think that, okay, we're just pawns. We're at the mercy of these people holding a pen and paper and writing down marks. And I really had to go back and think about why I was in the sport, what I wanted out of the sport, and where I was going to go with the sport. And I came to the conclusion where, again, none of that mattered. It was all about the love that I had for what I was doing. And I knew that the people in the audience enjoyed what I was doing, and that was reflected in their ovations for us. And that was the biggest reward for me. So I kept going, and I never looked back, and luckily that never happened again. But it was a real eye-opener, and I think I really had to pull down deep inside and find that inner strength I had. But I'm proud of myself. I did.
Yes, and then the Olympics happened.
And then the Olympics happened. Yes.
So it's a good thing you didn't call it quits, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. And there always are those walls, I feel like, where it's like, is this going to be the end? Is this going to be as good as it gets? And then when you have that tenacity and you're like, nope, this is not the end.
Yeah.
That grit of, I'm not going to let somebody else's game, and I feel like in skating especially, I'm not going to let somebody else's head game mess this up for me, because
absolutely not.
I do it for me. I don't do it for the judges. That's usually the turning point, I think, that gets people positive again. I've noticed this.
And do you find that with 12 and 13-year-olds that that's something that they have to learn that will help them progress? That they really have to do it for themselves and not anyone else? Because I think that is the important message here. You know, listen to your heart, and you're doing it because you're doing it for the right thing.
Mm-hmm. That it makes me think of a girl I worked with who was a singer, and she was phenomenally talented. She was wonderful, this wonderful girl who just couldn't see her value. And she was so endlessly negative and so hard on herself and such a perfectionist, and really believed, if I don't do this well, I will not be okay. I will not get what I want out of this life. And I hear this a lot. You know, these girls who are, 12 to 15, 16, who are going, if I mess this up, I'm messing up my life. It's like this, there's so much at stake in their minds. And then she had this moment, this singer, where she realized, I'm just going to do it for me. She actually just did an experiment. She went and sang, and she went, I am going to sing for me, and I don't care what those judges think. And she has never been more confident. She made a mistake and it didn't rattle her. She had joy, and all of the negativity that had been completely overcoming her mind just disappeared.
That's fabulous.
And
that's why I'm such a warrior when it comes to my message of positivity. Because when you think about it, when a baby is born, they are filled with a positive energy. We are all filled with positive energy when we're young. You never see a baby born that has a bad attitude. I mean, you have some questionable, but they look at every little thing with amazing excitement, and they look forward to everything, and everything is happy. And somewhere along the line in life, we start having little pieces of that going away from us. And that's what people have to really realize, that they need to protect their own positive energy, because that is you. That is what you're made of. So if you can remain focused and keep that positivity about everything in life, then as you grow into an adult, you have more of that to shine, and you have more of that to give out to other people as well. And it's a much lighter feeling than negative thoughts and negativity. That just brings you down. And that's why you stay away from those energy drainers that are negative. It's that, okay, I'm happy, I'm positive, you're not going to ruin my day. And that's what you have to protect. That's what you have to focus on. And that's what's going to propel you forward.
Mm-hmm. I just said the other day, I wish everybody in the world looked at me the way my baby looks at me, or the way that my dog looks at me. If that was the case. And what if I looked at the world in the same way she looks at me, with this awe and wonder and happiness and gratitude that's just totally unconditional? Oh,
that's awesome. That's the key right there. Think of it as a child. I mean, they look at things a whole lot different than we do. When we would go outside and play skipping rope, hopscotch, whatever, like way back then, and everything was fun. Mm-hmm. Now, if it starts to, I'm not going outside, it's raining. We used to love running in puddles. What happened?
Something that comes up a lot is coaches being negative. And especially with high-level skaters and high-level gymnasts, there's often this acceptance that coaches can be mean if they are, former Olympians, or they have coached Olympians, or they have they've taken people to that ultimate level of competition. Therefore, it's acceptable for them to be awful to you. And these kids, their spirits are just getting crushed, and it's hard to stay confident. What do you recommend for the kid who's got the phenomenal coach who can take you where you want to go, but just isn't kind? How do you keep your bubble of happiness around you in an environment like that?
Walk away.
I know, I'm like, jump ship. Yeah.
No, I mean, it's easier said than done, because if you're in a city with this only one really good coach, you've got to go to that coach, because you only get better if you train with other athletes around you that are better than you, and with a coach that knows a lot more than you do, obviously, to teach you. But nowadays, I think it's very different. You can speak up. I don't think it's disrespectful. I mean, if it's done in the right way. But you can speak up. If you are with someone that is coaching you that puts you down, then say something about it. It's not acceptable anymore. I mean, I've seen it. I've seen coaches do crazy things with athletes coming up too. But luckily for me, that never happened. I think I was with one during a summer, and a case in point, he'd say, I had to go out and try to do a double axel. And I'd try, and I didn't do it. And he started doing that, being very stern and saying things that were making me very upset. And the more I would try, the more he would say that. And it got to the point where in my head, I'm not a rebel, but I guess I was strong enough to say, okay, you're going to treat me like that? There's no way I'm going to land it. I'm not even going to try to land it. So for the rest of my lesson, I didn't land one on purpose, because because of the way he was treating me. I do much better with positive reinforcement, and I really do believe that there are so many people out there that would do the same thing. I don't think there's anyone out there that wants someone to beat down on them in order to teach them. So, yeah, I would speak up.
Yes. And especially in that age group that we've been talking about, it's maybe the scariest thing to go to a person of authority who is behaving in a way that adults should never behave, and to say, excuse me, that hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know about this. Doesn't seem to be working. Can we try this? Role playing can be really useful. Role playing with a parent, role playing with a friend. What would you say? I do that often with clients. I go, okay, if you were, to have a conversation with this person, we're not saying you will, but if you were, what would you say? And they're like, blah, 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 I don't know. And then eventually they can work out, well, this is my truth. And if you can't share your truth and be safe, and get the heck on out of there. Right?
Yeah, exactly. No one deserves that, and no one has the right to treat other people that way.
Yeah.
Sad.
Yep. And when all else fails, you go back to your universe of positivity.
Yes.
And yep. And maybe you land it to spite him, or you don't. But you do it on purpose, which then it doesn't affect your confidence, because you're like, I'm doing this because I don't want to do it. I'm not doing that for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But the environment can play a really big role, I've noticed, in the positivity.
And that's a hard one, because, like, as I said, if that's the only coach in town, I don't know, somebody's got to step in. But I think it's easier now. People are more aware of what's proper and what's not proper. And I'm hoping that that's progressed as well with everything else in society. That, there are things that are acceptable, and there are things that are not going to be accepted anymore. Is there a lot of that in the world of sport still?
Oh, too much, way too much. And that's part of my personal mission, is to change the culture, to to teach kids to speak up and stand in their strength.
Yeah.
And not feel like their goal and dream will be ripped away from them for being honest.
Yeah, I know.
But it's those change makers, those kids who are willing to get out of their comfort zone and really stand up for positivity, that they're gonna go places. They're gonna go places in this world. And I love talking to Olympians who have since moved on and had other things go on in their life, because sport is really only such a little bit of your life.
Well, you don't think that when you're in it, right?
Yes.
When you're in it, it's like years and years and years and years. Mm-hmm. But you're right. When you are out of the sport, then you look back, and when you reflect on everything you've been through, it's then that you realize everything in sport teaches you to excel in anything you put your mind to. And I say that to my boys at all times. They were both in baseball and hockey and all that. And they've even recognized that fact now. And they say, I am this way because I've been on a team, and I know how to work as a team, and I know how to pump other people up, and I know how to take care of my own headspace. And you don't learn that if you're not in sports. It's a really valuable tool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially in today where everything is so instant gratification. You want to know something, you Google it. You want to fix something, you want to buy something, you buy it. It's like, how to stay in the reality of good things take hard work. Good things take investment. And then those highs that, then when you get your championship, you make the team, you get that big win. It's so valuable because of all the blood, sweat, and tears that's built you up to get there.
That's right. It was earned.
Mm-hmm. Now, Barb, what would you, if you could talk to, let's say, 12-year-old you, and give a tip or a suggestion or something that would help, that just would help you along the way, what's something you would recommend?
Well, thinking back to when I was 12, 13, 18, 25, I wish I had someone say to me, here is a journal, and I want you to write down something every day or every week. It can be an emotion that you felt during your training, what happened afterwards, how you dealt with it, because then you can go back in time and look through it and say, oh yeah, I experienced something like that before. What did I do? That is important. But more than that, I was thinking to have a journal throughout my life as an athlete, because when it came time for me to write my book, I had to pull all this information out of this old brain, and it wasn't easy to do because I haven't remembered every detail, and there's so many things that happened. Had I had a journal and wrote things down, I would have all that info in front of me to pull all my information to write my book. So for anybody listening that is going through sports now, I would suggest that you start doing that. You write down your thoughts, your wishes, your dreams, your goals, put down your progress, and if you had a funny event happen that day, write it down. If you were in a new city competing and you saw something special, write it down, because it will be such a gift later on in life when you grow and you want to look back on what your life experiences were like. It's all there written down for you in your own words, and there's nothing more valuable than that. So that's what I would have done, and I really regret that I didn't, but I would suggest everyone start now, because you can't buy something like that in the store. You've got to get it from up here.
Yep. And then when that 14, 15-year-old is over their slump, out of the hump, they can go, oh gosh, yeah, I remember that. That felt like it would never end. And it did.
And you know what else? The byproduct of that's positive is by going through that and seeing it and realizing how they got through it, they can help somebody else get through it. Mm-hmm. So it's a pay it forward exercise.
Absolutely. That is the whole premise for my online community, the Perform Happy community. It's all about athletes who are struggling with fear and anxiety, who are at varying levels of getting through it and getting their confidence back. And it's amazing to see, the new kid pops in and is like, what do I do? And the other kids are like, oh, honey, you're going to get through it. Don't even worry. It's that is so much more powerful than me saying it.
Yeah.
Because these girls are just 3 months out of it. Or just
hearing it from your peers.
Yes. So I always like to ask guests, what are your tips to perform happy? What can you say to the kid out there who is, chasing that dream that might seem a little impossible, but they're really chasing it? How can they stay happy during the process?
That's a really good question. Once again, I would say just go deep within themselves. Know that they are a good person. They have a lot to offer this world. I strongly believe that everyone is a champion. Not necessarily only athletes. Everyone is a champion. Because all the life experiences you've gone through to this very moment in time, on this day as you and I are sitting here, everything I've gone through has made me who I am today. And everything that you've gone through has made you who you are today. And that's such a gift. So whether you're 5 years old, 10 years old, 15 years old, you have a toolbox within you of all these tools that you've accumulated over the years and over the experiences that you've done. And you need to be in a place that is very settled and grounded and be happy with yourself, because you are a gift to the world. And if they start looking at things that way, then I think their personal value goes up. Like they start to realize, okay, I'm a good person. I know I can offer a lot. So here, let me show you what I can do. And that's how you can be the most happiest, when you have the ability to shine, for even if it's for a moment. Somebody wants to see you, somebody wants to hear you, and you be there to do that for them, because then you're serving others, and that's the key to everything in life.
Absolutely. Oh, I 100% agree. Oh, Barbara, you are such a breath of fresh air. And I'm so inspired, because I love how you keep it so simple. You're like, how to be happy, be happy. How to be positive, be positive. Just let it be that simple. Must it be any more complicated?
People overcomplicate things.
Yes. Yeah, and people are like, well, tell me exactly how, and what are the steps, and what are the phases? And it's like, well, you just look for the seedling. Look for
Yeah,
what.
no, you know what? You make the decision and you do it. You do it in your own way. Like there's no secret sauce. There's no formula. Like you have to do this, this, and this to be positive. Mm-hmm. But if you handle the basics, right? Appreciate, have gratitude, serve others, and happiness is just a byproduct of all that. It's just you're in a good place. And I don't want anyone to forget that, and especially athletes. I mean, no matter what age, just do your thing and shine. I always say, I wrote a book called Win It, Life, and Sparkle. And it's more about because you are who you are and you have so much to give, you can't help but sparkle. And I want everyone to do that.
Oh,
you sparkle. You've been amazing to talk to.
Oh, and you sparkle too. Oh. Okay, well, everybody go read Barbara's book. Go sparkle. And how do we find you? If anybody wants to learn more about you or watch what you're up to, how do people find you?
Well, right now you can find me on Instagram at Barb Berezowski, the Champion Mindset Mentor. I'm working on a website right now, so that'll be coming up, but I'll be promoting that on my Instagram so everybody can see me there. But that's the most important part. Just go on Instagram or Facebook and Barb Berezowski. I'm here.
And Barb has the best nuggets of sparkle that you can keep in your feed. So I love following you, and I recommend everyone do the same.
But I think what you're doing is phenomenal. It's so necessary. I wish we had it when we competed, when I was younger. I mean, you are a godsend. So I hope everyone does appreciate what you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much, Barbara.
You're welcome
for being a part of the show.
My pleasure.